Seeking, friends. What does it mean for us to seek in the midst of a world that is full of dead bones? Where are your dead bones? Where are your graves? Where are the places that you have given up on? Where are the places that you go, I just have to let that lay in the ground? Where are the places that you go, there's just no hope there? Where are these places of pain and hurt and suffering? See, you and I have been conditioned to say, I will move on. Because of fact, because of science, because of reason, because of experience, because of life, because of our communities, we are taught that these bones cannot live. We look around our larger world at situations that seem absolutely impossible, and we assume that it's the worst case scenario, and that place, that person, that group, that nation, all of those things have no hope. And then we look at our own lives, and we hear that diagnosis. We see that relationship. We see that debt. We see that house that seems like it's crumbling, and we believe that there is no hope. We believe that that graveyard is something that occasionally you think about. Sometimes you walk into, occasionally you even place some flowers there. But you do not believe that life exists there any longer. These two texts, the dry bones in the valley and Lazarus being resurrected, these two texts come into our lives in the middle of Lent to remind us what this whole season is pointing towards, reminding us what our faith is really about. We are not the kind of people who believe that death is the final word. Are we? Do we actually believe in resurrection? Do we believe in hope? Do we believe in healing? The last time I remember preaching this text on Lazarus was 12 years ago. There's a few of you out there who was with me at my last church when I preached this text 12 years ago. You probably don't remember it. I do, because it's a very significant moment in my life. My wife and I, I'm going to cry. Man, okay. Guess we're going to do this. I thought I had this. Okay, here we go. My wife and I had just returned from Texas. For the previous 3 months of our lives, we had been working with a mother in Texas who was in the adoption process. And we believed that we had a baby coming in our lives. And we went to Texas because we got the phone call. She's in labor. And we got there. And we met with the mom, and she's in labor, and all the things, right? And it was good. And we went back to our hotel that night. And when we walked into the hospital that morning, security greeted us at the door and told us that this baby was not going to be ours. And I walked through what was, up to that point in my life, the hardest thing that I'd ever done in my life. Something that I did not think I would be able to live through. We returned back from Texas, a mess, defeated, in the grave. We had already been in this process for years. 4 years. And I was an associate pastor at the time, and you get handed a text to preach. And it was this one of Lazarus. Man, I had some words, I had some thoughts, I had some feelings. I did not want to preach this text because I did not believe that resurrection can happen in the midst of those dry bones, that the grave can be opened, that someone and something in some circumstances can be unbound and unwrapped and new life come out of them. And I do what preachers do. You get up there and you make a good showing of it, friends. And you say you believe even if you don't, because you're getting paid to do that, you know. Little did I know that 3 days after preaching that text, we got the phone call for our son, Kason, right here in Colorado. By the end of that week, he was sleeping in our house. He was ours. 12 years later, he is now 13 years old. I tell you that story along with those dry bones, along with this story of Lazarus, friends, because you and I have no idea what happens when God's breath, when God's wind, when God's Spirit does its miraculous thing in our world and in our lives. We look at God and say, had you just shown up, God, my brother would not have died. We look at even the angelic messengers of our world and they ask, do you believe that these bones live? And we go, I mean, sure, you're God. You can do anything you want. You don't, but you can. We, like Mary and Martha, and those people of that day look around and go, why in the world would we move back this stone? It has been 4 days, Jesus. Not only does it physically stink, that there's a stench, I don't want to relive that suffering and pain. I have put that stone on that grave for a reason. Because I don't believe those bones can live again. But what if they can? What if the graves can be opened up? And what if it is your job and my job to walk out into our world and call out to the Lazaruses that are in the grave, come forth, come out, resurrect, bring new life? What if you and I actually take this faith seriously and believe in a future, believe in hope, believe that there is something around the corner? Because when I look across this congregation, I see stories of resurrection. I know the struggles. I know the death. I know all of these moments in your lives, and I've also seen the other side with you. I see a resilient people, a persevering group, people who live through some of the worst moments. And friends, at that moment 12 years ago, I thought I was living in the worst moment of my life. Turns out life had some worse ones for me. And here I am. And here you are. And my hope in the middle of this Lent is that you will walk out into those grave sites, that you will look at those dry bones, you will look in those places that seem like they have no hope, and you will say, God, breathe on these bones. Move away that stone. That doesn't mean we don't weep. That doesn't mean we don't hurt. That doesn't mean that somehow in the midst of that, those suffering doesn't hurt us to the core. Even Jesus, who knew what he was doing, walking to Bethany, literally telling the disciples, I'm going to go wake Lazarus up. He gets to that tomb, and what happens to him? He begins to weep because life hurts. But that hurt, that suffering, that death is not the end. My question for us as we approach Easter, where are these places? Where are these places of suffering? Where are these graves? Where are these places that seem hopeless? And will you allow them to speak in a new way again? Will you allow a new day to dawn? Our choir is about to sing an old song in a new way, but an old song. Were you there? Were you there? In all of these worst moments in Jesus' story? Were you there in all of these suffering moments of your own story? Were you there when they nailed him to that cross? And were you there 3 days later? Amen.